There is a kind of person who can stand in a room full of people and still feel like they are watching the whole thing from behind glass. Not because nobody is talking to them. People talk to them all the time. It's because nobody is talking to them, not really. They're reading a different script than everyone else in the room. They notice the tiny shift in someone's voice before that person even admits something is wrong. They feel emotions so loud in their chest that words can't keep up. And for most of their life, they've probably been told the same three things. You're too sensitive. You're too intense. You think too much. Here's the twist psychology has been quietly sitting on. None of that is a flaw. Those exact traits, the ones that made you feel like the odd one out, are the fingerprint of the rarest personality type on the planet. Researchers estimate it shows up in only about 1 to 2% of people on Earth. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly why you feel this way, and sign number 7 is the one almost nobody ever talks about. It's the one that explains everything else. Before we get into the signs, you need to understand what's actually happening under the hood, because this isn't just a personality type. It's a specific, almost paradoxical wiring. You've probably heard of the 16 personality framework that grew out of Carl Jung's work. Out of all 16, one stands almost completely on its own, the INFJ introverted. Intuitive, feeling, judging now, rare doesn't mean superior. Jung himself never ranked these patterns, he just described them as different lenses for processing the world. What makes this particular lens so unusual is the collision of two functions that don't usually sit comfortably together. The first is something psychologists call introverted intuition. Think of it as a background process that's always running quietly, collecting fragments of information, conversations, glances, patterns, and then out of nowhere, spitting out a conclusion. You don't always know how you got there. You just know. You see the ending of the story while everyone else is still reading the first page. The second is extroverted, feeling an almost radar-like sensitivity to the emotional temperature of everyone around you. You can feel the mood of a room shift before anyone says a word. You sense what people need before they ask. And with that comes a heavy, often invisible weight, feeling responsible for emotions that were never yours to carry. Put those two together, a mind built to see what's coming, and a heart that absorbs everyone else's feelings along the way, and you get someone who is remarkably perceptive and quietly worn out. Let's get into the 7 signs. If even half of these sound like your inner world, don't go anywhere, because the last one reframes everything before it. Sign 1, you see the ending before anyone else sees the beginning. You've probably had the experience of meeting someone, or stepping into a new situation, and within minutes, sometimes seconds, having a quiet, certain sense of exactly where it's headed. Not a guess, a knowing. Maybe it's a friendship that everyone says is so healthy, but something in your gut already senses the cracks forming. Months later, it falls apart exactly the way you felt it would, and people ask, how did you know? The honest answer is, you didn't know in a way you could explain. Your mind was quietly stitching together hundreds of tiny details, tone of voice, timing, body language, inconsistencies, long before your conscious brain caught up. This is your intuition working in the background, like a search engine that never stops indexing. It's powerful. It's also exhausting, because you often can't prove what you see, you just have to sit with the discomfort of knowing and waiting for everyone else to catch up. Sign 2 small talk feels like slowly running out of air. Ask yourself honestly, does talking about the weather, or someone's weekend plans, or what's trending online feel less like a conversation and more like treading water? It's not that you dislike people. It's that surface-level conversation skips straight past the part of human connection you actually crave. You want to talk about why someone believes what they believe, what scares them, what they've never told anyone. Small talk, to you, feels like standing at the edge of a pool and never being allowed to swim. So you either learn to fake interest in shallow conversation which drains you fast, or you quietly excuse yourself from gatherings that are full of people but empty of any real connection. Sign 3, you absorb emotions like a sponge in water. Here's something that might explain a lot. You can walk into a room and within moments feel a heaviness settle over you, and later find out someone in that room was secretly going through something painful. You picked it up before a single word was spoken. This isn't simply being empathetic, it's closer to emotional osmosis. Other people's stress becomes your stress. Their sadness lingers in your body long after they've gone home and forgotten about it. You might find yourself snapping at someone you love, only to realize the irritation wasn't even yours. You'd absorbed it from a tense conversation hours earlier. The exhausting part is that most people around you have no idea this is happening, which means you rarely get the recovery time you actually need. Sign 4, you live a whole second life inside your own head. From the outside, you might look calm, maybe even a little quiet. But inside, there's an entire universe running, replaying conversations, rehearsing future ones, building elaborate what-if scenarios, imagining how a relationship could unfold 10 years from now. This rich internal world is often where you feel most like yourself. It's a private theater nobody else gets to see. The downside is that it can pull you so far inward that the external world, deadlines, small errands, even people standing right in front of you, starts to feel like background noise. You're not ignoring life. You're just living a second, fuller version of it, somewhere only you can access. Sign 5, you need meaning the way other people need air. A job that pays well but feels pointless will eat away at you faster than financial stress ever could. You can't just do something you need to understand why it matters, who it helps, what it adds up to. This is why small talk, meaningless routines, and work without purpose feel almost physically uncomfortable to you. You're not being difficult or idealistic. Your mind is built to search for significance, the way other minds search for comfort or status. When you find something, a cause, a craft, a relationship that actually matters, you don't just enjoy it. You pour yourself into it completely. Sign 6, you see straight through the mask. People can perform confidence, happiness, or ease. All they want, you still catch the flicker underneath. A forced laugh that doesn't reach the eyes. A "I'm fine" that carries something else entirely. You notice it almost instantly, even when you wish you didn't. This makes you remarkably hard to fool. But it comes with a strange side effect. You start craving the same honesty from others that you give so easily. When people only show you their polished surface, it can feel lonelier than being by yourself because you know there's a real version of them you're not being shown. Sign 7, the quiet ache of never quite being seen. This is the one most people never talk about. And it's the thread that ties every other sign together. You can be deeply loved, surrounded by people who genuinely care about you, and still carry a quiet ache of feeling fundamentally unseen. Not because the people in your life don't try, it's because you process the world so differently that even your closest relationships only ever touch part of who you actually are. You give people your full attention, your full empathy, your full intuition about who they really are, and most of the time, that depth isn't returned in kind, simply because most people aren't wired to operate at that depth. So you adapt. You learn to translate yourself into smaller, simpler versions that others can digest. And over time, that translation becomes its own kind of loneliness, not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of being surrounded and still unmet. If this is you, you've likely spent years thinking something was wrong with you. There isn't. You were just never given a place where your full depth was the expectation instead of the exception. So if you recognized yourself in even 3 or 4 of these signs, here's what I want you to take with you. Every single thing that made you feel too much, the depth, the sensitivity, the constant inner world, the hunger for meaning, is not a malfunction. It's a rare architecture of mind that maybe one or two people out of 100 will ever have. The world doesn't always make space for minds like this. So you have to learn to make space for it yourself, protecting your energy from rooms that drain you, seeking out the few people who can actually meet you at your depth, and trusting the quiet knowing that's gotten you this far. If this video described you more than you expected, that's not a coincidence, that's recognition. And if you want to understand exactly how this rare mind falls in love, handles conflict, or burns out, that's a whole video on its own. So if you're curious, hit subscribe, because we're going much deeper into this in the next one, and trust me, sign one in that video is the one that's going to hit even harder than today's.